starting out with this is always scary when you hear about a ton of Fed presidents and governors and members. When they start, hold on, let me move my camera up a little bit. When they start talking, generally speaking, nothing good happens with markets because they tend to be more hawkish than dovish every single time. So today we have two, Vice Chair Jefferson and Mester, and then tomorrow we have two, and the biggest one will be, of course, Powell, and he's going to be speaking tomorrow. And then you got another one on Wednesday, 3 on Thursday, 1 on Friday, and again, generally speaking, I don't even know why Mester is listed twice. Generally speaking, when these Fed members talk, they say bad things like, okay, inflation is up, so we may have to consider rate hikes. Like, no, that's not what you should be saying and not what you should be scaring. I mean, there's no need to scare the markets even more, right? We know that inflation is a problem still. But I just never get it. Powell's the one that makes all the decisions, yet you have all these other guys making comments that's making his life even harder. So one of the big things to look forward to is what he's going to say tomorrow. But we're going to get a lot of opinions this entire week. We have two big inflation readings this week in the U.S. PPI, which comes tomorrow, and more importantly, CPI, which comes Wednesday. And of course, you have a lot of other economic data that shows how strong or weak the economy is, right? Like building permits, manufacturing, jobless claims, retail sales. These are all important too. But what is inflation data going to tell us? We had PCE, which told us that inflation not only went up in a big way. So is PPI and CPI going to show the same thing? And if so, it really puts Powell in a very, very, very difficult spot, right? He was pressed the last FOMC meeting whether or not he would even consider a rate hike. He said no, not on the table whatsoever. And he still indicated rate cuts were still coming. So when are they going to come? The number of rate cuts, are they going to be decreased or not? Or he's just going to pretend none of this really happens and some shenanigans start happening, right? We know this is election year, and that always gets fudged around. Starting with the CPI data tomorrow, Wednesday, they will now exclude coffee. Coffee has always been in the CPI data, and coffee is one of those commodities that have been inflated quite a lot since last year. According to this, September 2023 to now, coffee went up a massive 78%. Starbucks even reported a decline in traffic due to higher costs of coffee, right? Yet, this is being removed from the CPI data. Why do you think it's being removed? Like, the shenanigans that we're talking about, is that really going to start? Is this one of the reasons for them to try to like fudge numbers and make inflation not seem as elevated as it is? I don't know. Maybe soon. In here, there's vegetable shortening, tomatoes. Maybe they all start getting removed from CPI because they show really elevated levels of inflation, and they have to somehow fudge the numbers to make it look like we're not inflating, and that's how we're gonna get a rate cuts. I don't know, but this seems weird that all of a sudden they're going to like exclude one category from CPI data. Like I said in my Sunday walk video, I'm trying to identify who's been selling last week, okay? Because it wasn't the ETF. So if you look at this, obviously week 14 through 17 being pretty nasty, okay? Almost 8,000 Bitcoins sold. But last week, if you tally everything up, we had a net inflow of 1,300 Bitcoin, which is good. Grayscale selling kind of came to a halt. There was still some selling, But overall, last week was a good inflow day, right? So we'll see how this week is, especially considering, if inflation goes up, are we going to see more from Wall Street turn to Bitcoin? I think so. I think that's actually a good thing for Bitcoin if we do see CPI go up and PPI go up to the moon, okay? But ETFs are also net positive now. At least for last week, we broke 4 weeks of major outflows, major selling. So this week, if we do see a net inflow continue in a positive direction, that would be, of course, very good for this week. As for Grayscale, last week, they still did sell more than they took in, 2,834, but it was the slowest outflow week Grayscale's ever had since converting to ETF. Okay, so that's also very positive. Let's see if that can actually turn to zero or net positive for this week, and that will be the first in Grayscale's history. El Salvador now posted a website to track their Bitcoin holdings, and you can see right here, 7-day change, 7 Bitcoin, basically 1 Bitcoin per day. 30-day change, 30 Bitcoin, BTC holdings, 5,748, $360 million. And you can see that stair step upwards. Basically, they are DCAing on a schedule, 1 Bitcoin per day, which is hard to do. No, I don't think any of us can do that. Only a small country could. But it goes to show you the power of DCA. Again, I showed you guys in my DCA portfolio. Microstrategy and Michael Saylor obviously showing it, just going crazy at times and just buying Bitcoin as much as they can really, randomly. And just keep in mind that MicroStrategy itself has more than 1% of the total supply. Of the total supply there ever will be. We're not even at 21 million released. We're only at 19.4. So that means he actually holds more than 1% at this time. Only 2 ETFs hold more, Grayscale and BlackRock, but they're not too far off. Michael Saylor has made his life mission to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. So again, this is important because when things get scary, when things go lower, when there's a lot of volatility, what should you do? Just remind yourself of these big boys. What are they doing? They are buying, they're loading up, or they're just ignoring the FUD. Continue to hold on and ignoring the FUD.